1, 2, 3, 4.
Come a little bit closer, hear what I have to say. Just like children.
Good morning, honey.
Good morning, sweetie. Full disclosure, it's not exactly morning,
No.
but we are around the table, and it's Sunday, so we got 2 out of 3, right?
Yep. Gotta do what you gotta do.
You got to do what you got to do. Kind of been a whirlwind week. You've been down with the allergies.
Yeah.
It's been kicking your hiney all
Yeah.
over the place. Got a lot done yesterday around the yard.
Yeah.
We're at the very end of the burn season. May 1st is when the burn season is over with. So this was really the last weekend to burn. So we gathered up a whole bunch of dead brush and stuff that we'd cut earlier and made a big fire and
You just went and checked it again, make sure.
yeah, well, it's still burning because I threw some things on there that were like pieces of log that take a while to burn.
Like a whole log.
Well, yeah, we're
Like a log, meaning a tree, not like a log you put in the fireplace.
yeah, it's not like a chunk of wood. It was 2 feet in diameter and about 3 feet long.
Yeah.
Threw a few of those on there. I'm trying to burn the stuff that's been laying around the yard for the past, I don't know, almost 10 years.
Yeah.
But we're getting it whittled down, and we'll feel good about going into the summer not having a whole lot of dead brush laying around.
Yeah, that'll be good. And you also got the motorhome up on Craigslist, so we're selling our big motorhome, and that'll be good.
Yeah.
Got that done, and then
Hopefully it'll sell soon.
it will. And then, just life stuff. I went to the urgent care and sat in the waiting room for almost 4 hours last Monday because I have horrible vertigo and nauseousness and pain and ringing in my ears and horrible throat post-nasal drip going on, and so they put me on an antibiotic because I had fluid behind my right ear, and went back today because I'm just continuing not feeling good, and last night I couldn't sleep at all. I thought my throat was going to close all the way up, and it's really from the post-nasal drip and the continual issues I'm having. So they're going to refer me to an ENT, and we'll see where that takes us after that. They wanted to give me a steroid shot, and I'm like, no, thank you. Not doing it. I don't want, it's just a Band-Aid. I want to go find out what's going on. So,
But despite all that, you still kicked butt in the yard yesterday. We did a whole lot of work,
I
and
know.
you forced your way through it.
I did.
That's what you call being strong. You could have laid on the couch and moaned and groaned and waited for me to hand you stuff.
I think I was in my thoughts.
Laying on the couch moaning.
Just, I was trying not to complain. I was trying not to, make an excuse for why I couldn't come out there and help. And, we try to do things as a team. So I try to partake as a team and put in what I have. I had enough energy to do the things I did, and I got a lot done. The next thing that needs to be done, though, is cleaning of a chicken coop, and that, on the other hand, might take both of us again to get that done.
But had you decided to stay on the couch and you wanted me to wait on you hand and foot, that kind of brings us to today's topic, I would have done it.
Yeah, you don't wait on me hand and foot, honey. You support me, and you give me the support I needed at the times that I need it. It's not like you're a slave.
I'm not sure where the term hand and foot came from.
No, but it just sounds wrong.
You didn't want either one of my feet or my hands on you.
Well, the topic for today is just well, first of all, the whole way that men even approach women now has to be totally different out there in the world. It's hard because I would hate to be in the dating scene. And I, one of the things I appreciate that you do really was just, first of all, being kind. And you choose your words very wisely under any circumstance. You just don't fly off and say whatever. You take the time to think about what you're going to say before you say. You've taught me that, and I've really appreciated that. And you're always set to help others or be there for others too. It's not just me, it's our family, it's our children, it's my mom, it was your mom and for years, and your sister or your brother, they call, you're there. You are just that type of person. But on top of all that, what I'm curious about and what we want to talk about today is where you learned how to be, is it chivalrous?
Chivalrous.
Chivalrous.
Yeah.
Because we've been together 20 years, and anytime we walk towards a car or walk towards the door, you say hinge on the right or hinge on the left for the door, or, walking towards the car, you always try to beat me to the car and open my door for me, or you're always very kind that way with door opening, and you always pump my gas for me when we're together.
Hold your hand on the way into the store.
Yeah, you do those things. I'm wondering, is that what your dad did with your mom? Is that where you learned that, or is that something you just took on yourself?
Well, kind of both. I learned at an early age, respect is important. Not only respecting your elders, which should go without saying, but apparently is more uncommon than it is common. But respecting everyone else, respecting anything with life, whether it's a butterfly or your dog or a chicken or your sister, your parents, everybody around you. Respect should be your default setting. With the proliferation of social media, of the various brands of social media, whether it's Instagram or especially Facebook or YouTube or ad infinitum, all the different platforms, it seems to be that it's easier to disrespect someone, say mean and horrible things, because there are no repercussions. If you say mean and horrible things to someone in line at the grocery store, chances are, if you do it to the right person or the wrong person, there's going to be physical repercussions.
Right.
Immediate and swift and unfortunate, but probably well-deserved. Online, there's not really anything you can say like, oh yeah, that's about it. If somebody...
Or you just get mean back.
You just get mean back, and
right.
And it escalates from there. So when I learned from an early age, and I tried to reinforce it with myself and lead by example. Now, I haven't always been this way, and haven't been always true to that. There have been times that I've said and done mean things and stupid things, like everybody else has. But I try to reduce that as much as possible. Even lately, more lately than I've been reading more about Stoicism and philosophy.
No.
Okay, we got a dog fight going on, or a dog tussle.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying.
Keep going.
So I won't fly off the handle and start beating dogs. I gotta respect them, even though they're doing some really stupid things right now.
Keep going.
Okay, and so opening your car door for you, and my dad was very subtle in his, not just his kindness to mom, but is to the way he treated her, the loving rubs and pity pats and things like that, he did it very subtly. It wasn't really overt. And so that's kind of what I saw, is they had a pretty good relationship. Was it perfect? No. Did they have arguments? Yes. Did they treat each other poorly? No. I have seen too many couples who overtly and in front of other people say mean things about their significant other. And I didn't want to be like that. And the listeners may know that I was married once before, and that I did not act like the perfect husband. I could have done way better. I'm not going to do a post-mortem on that, on what went right, what went wrong. But I decided when you and I met that I wanted to do it right. I wanted to avoid and learn from past mistakes and not repeat them. So I don't burp in front of you. Have you heard me burp really loud in front of you?
No.
Okay. I try to do it off, when I'm by myself, that's a different thing. I'll burp the alphabet. I don't care. Or I'll burp to the dogs. They think it's funny, but I'm not going to do it in front of you because it wouldn't be funny. Or same thing as farting in front of your face. Some people do that and they think it's funny. To me, that's not funny. That's disrespectful and nasty. And I would never do that to you. I open your doors. I know you're perfectly capable of opening a door. You did it for years before you met me, and when I'm not around, you don't bump in front of the glass like that and trying to figure out how to get through a door because you don't know where the handle is.
Yeah, I had I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was walking out of Michael's the other day with a colleague, and this gentleman was walking towards the door. And he went to open the door. And he goes, "Oh, wait, you women don't like that kind of thing." And I go, "Oh, you're talking about a woman I don't know of, because my husband opens my door for me every time we're together. In fact, sometimes I've walked up to the door and it wouldn't open and I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do it." And he thought that was funny. He said, "Well, it's not like that anymore." And I said, "Well, that's a shame."
That needs to be taught. I don't know. I don't think they teach that in schools. Like, they don't have shop class in schools anymore, or home economics, or basic life skills in school anymore.
Right.
Because apparently it's not taught at home.
The common sense stuff, to me, that type of thing, that type of teaching has really lost its way. And it's unfortunate because no one's teaching our children those values and beliefs, those morals, that are so important. That's what we need in our world. And I can't say no one, because I've been places and I've met people that are they're very chivalrous, and I've seen them open their door for another human being or being kind. And I always point out, that's very nice of you, thank you, or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, it's a lost value.
And I again, it appears to be more or less and less common, and again, that's a shame. But I hold the door open for people I don't know, whether they're younger than me, older than me, walking fast, walking slow. It really doesn't matter. I'll if I'm there and they're approaching the door, I'll stand there and I'll hold it open for them. And at the theater, even like when everybody's leaving, I'll be standing there holding the door, rolling my eyes. Okay. Eventually, the parade is people leaving is going to end, or somebody else is going to grab the door so I can go. But I'll do it. I'll stand there and hold the door, and most people will acknowledge it and say thank you. I've only had one person negatively say, "Why are you holding the door open for me?" And I said, "Well, it's called politeness. You should try it sometime." That was passive aggressive, I know, but they had to come in.
You think?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
and the look on her face was priceless.
Well, and we can't actually take things that we do and push them on as expectations of what we think other people should do. But I do believe that that type of action is seen as very kind. And we need more kindness in the world. We really do. And one of the things that I teach about when it comes to children is being respectful to children. Oftentimes, that's not the case depending on how people are raised, they raise their children usually how they were raised. And I teach teachers about being very respectful to children, like not just coming right up and wiping their nose, and instead you teach them about the importance of wiping your nose, and do they need some help wiping their nose, and do they want to learn how to do it, and there's a sense of respect in teaching itself when it comes with children or other adults, or teaching whomever. Respect to me is a presence. It's something that can't be faked. It's real. It's something that if you're doing it just so someone can recognize that you're doing it, instead of because it's coming from your heart, it's seen. For example, that lady saying, "Why you open the door for me?" and what you said what is almost like, because that's what everybody should be doing, but they're not, and they won't. So I don't know where I was going with that, but
well, you instead of forcing our beliefs on other people, we should lead by example, and hopefully that they will see the example. They'll either get the lessons or they won't, and that's outside of our sphere of influence. I think the last podcast or a couple, I've talked about things that are within our control. Think of it as the size of your pinky fingernail, and then there's the size of the sun of everything that's outside of your control. And you shouldn't worry about things outside of your control, because exactly that, they are outside of your control. Worrying about them or fretting or getting your knickers in a twist about something outside of your control doesn't do you any good. It doesn't solve the problem. Worry about, or should I say, don't worry about the things within your control. Just control them. If you control them, and there's only one thing that I can think of that is within your control, is your thoughts.
And your actions.
Well, your action has to start with a thought. If I'm going to pick up my glasses and put them on my head, it had to start with a thought. If I'm going to do something kind to someone or mean to someone, that has to start with a thought. You have to, it's rarely accidental. Like you fall off a ladder and you fall onto someone and hurt them. That was accidental. That really wasn't a thought on your part.
Well, I would say that sometimes you have an unconscious reaction that is embedded in your brain that you didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that's a fair point.
For example, there were times when my kids were little, before I learned about love and logic and learned about things on how to be a good parent. I was, quick to swat them on the bottom when they weren't doing something whatever it was. And it was kind of unconscious, because like, where'd that come from? I didn't plan on doing that. It's like, it was a reaction that I didn't even think about. It just happened. That happens sometimes. And those are those unconscious reactive behaviors that I believe everybody has some of those. But if you catch them and there's something you want to change, you identify it as, okay, I did not mean to say or do that. I want to do better. And that's being human. We all have moments of things like that we say or do something that are reactive, that we didn't think about before we do them in our thoughts. It was so quick. And the amygdala, that part in your brain which perceives danger, and let's really quote the word perceived, because it may think, it might send the danger zone down to your brainstem, but really you're not in a dangerous situation, but it can do that to you. And then you react to it and you're like, oh, that deserved a whole different response than what I gave it. you know?
Yeah, that's happens, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway.
Like you said, perceived danger, like a little bitty spider.
Yeah.
Little spider's not going to hurt you. But people have been a conditioned response. And again, that's where meditation comes in. Something that we've talked about before is being able to sit still, hands in your lap, close your eyes, relax, and just concentrate on your breathing. If a thought creeps in, you start to daydream about something you've done or something you have to do or anything like that. Any thought that creeps in, you have to push it back out and then concentrate on your breathing. And that way you get more adept at tagging your thoughts, at understanding the thought processes, because your brain is a big, beautiful, juicy thinking machine. That's all it does. That's the sole function. Your higher parts of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, your neocortex, is to make thoughts, is to generate thoughts constantly.
Well, and it's also part of your logical reasoning. It's part of your decision-making system. It is the driver of the bus.
Right.
And if you're in a reactive state, you're unable to make logical reasoning decisions, and to understand things to the fullest. You become more reactive. So, but what we know is that when you decide, when going back to chivalry, these are things that were thought about. It's not like it was automatic for you. It's something you started doing. Now, from what I understand, is when you and I got together. So you weren't like that before.
Well, the whole treat each other with respect thing, that was practically from birth. I had some good examples in my life, and I had some not so good examples. I've seen my sisters treated fairly and honestly and lovingly by some of the people they were with, and I've seen them be not treated not so kindly and fairly and honestly with the people they were with. And I tried to learn lessons from them, from what I saw, rather than just merely what I experienced.
Because you were the baby brother.
I was the baby brother, yeah. Mm-hmm. If I was the oldest, would it be different? I don't know. That experience is different. Mm-hmm. The being the oldest, that's a whole other podcast. Is the where you are in the sibling thing, whether you're an oldest child, youngest child, middlest child. That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other branch of psychology.
Right.
Well, I don't think we're going to go down that rabbit hole. But I tried to. If you use empathy basically means you're going to feel what the other person feels. And then you'll get lost in their feelings. Now, compassion means, okay, I can understand what they're feeling, but I'm not going to get wrapped up in it. I can feel for them from afar without getting wrapped up in their story, becoming part of the story. Mm-hmm. Compassion means you understand what they're going through. Maybe you can help, maybe you can't. If it's within your sphere of influence, then sure, you should. If it's outside of your sphere of influence, like starving kids in Africa, that's kind of outside of my sphere of influence. I can donate money to an organization, but once it leaves my hands and they get it, that's outside of my hands. So
outside of your control.
Outside of my control, exactly. But I can worry, or not worry, but that's the wrong word. I can concentrate on things that I can control. And for the large part, with a few exceptions that you noted, for the large part, I can control my actions. How I treat you, how I treat my sister, how I treat my brother, how I treated my parents, or how I treat your mom or our friends or our dogs or chickens, or how I treat the property, how I take care of it. That is, those things involve conscious decisions. And I'm trying to do it right. I don't always get it right, but I try my best to, on self-improvement, to try and do better. Mm-hmm. And perfection is the enemy of progress. You've heard that before. So don't strive for perfection. Just strive for better. That's the reason we're on this journey that we've been listening to Jason Seib for almost the past year. And even before that, I was reading self-help book, what they call, quote-unquote, self-help books. Having a positive mental attitude.
I think both of us were doing a lot of work around growth mindset and following people that are super important when it comes to that growth mindset and healing from trauma. We used to, one of the things we talked about was creating this Sunday morning table to kind of talk about those things that where we were growing. And so that's why each week we might have a topic, but we might go down a rabbit hole because that's the natural progression of a good conversation, And so I think it's really important that we keep that open mind. Even though we came in here to talk about chivalry, it comes from a place. It comes from a place of experience, comes from a place of you wanting to be better at whatever it is that you're doing. And I kind of see that in you and other things too, trying to be better. We are all striving to be better. But like you said, what do we have control over? We have control of the decisions we make each day we get up in the morning. Decisions of what we want to do and where we're going, and showing up for those that are counting on us. I feel like that's a little bit of chivalry, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think chivalry, or that connection of serving others, is part of that. And that means using your mindset of, I will show up no matter what. I might be late sometimes. I might come in rolling in hot. I might, regardless of what it is, but people can count on me.
Or if you drag yourself in and there's something squealing behind you as you walk, it's your butt. You're dragging your butt. You still show up.
Or dragging your kids.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah, there's that.
And the biggest piece of that for me, how are women showing this skill? What do you think?
Because chivalry is not delegated directly and specifically and endemically to men.
Right.
All human beings can be chivalrous. Women can hold the door. Women can say kind things as opposed to mean things. I know there's a lot of angry people out there who are angry at things that they cannot control. And they just haven't learned to let go of the things that they can't control. And they think by getting angry that they'll make the thing better. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of protests. That's basically what a protest is the outward exhibition of frustration over things that you cannot control. You're trying to make a difference by being very vocal and, for the most part, negative about things that you can't control.
So if we look at chivalry from the perspective, it's chivalry was a code of ethics and behavior that emerged in medieval Europe in the 1170 and 1220. It was a religious, moral, and social code that distinguished the nobility from commoners. The term comes from the medieval Latin word caballerius.
Yeah, which is somebody who rides a horse.
Right. So chivalry, in its broadest sense, refers to the code of conduct emphasizing honor, courage, and politeness, especially towards women.
It can go both ways, but those are you're absolutely right about the beginnings.
Yep. In the medieval context, it was associated with knighthood, outlining rules for behavior both on and off the battlefield. Today, it often implies gentlemanly behavior, including acts like holding doors or offering jackets.
Or walking on the straight side of the sidewalk.
I still make you do that, though.
Yeah.
If I see cars coming, I push you off.
Push me in front of the cars.
No, I don't push you in front of the cars. But I think, not all, when learning how to do such a thing like chivalry, it's understanding that there's that. I like that code of ethic because it can go both ways. it absolutely should. So that just takes me back to, how are women chivalrous? By being kind, by being present, right? What else?
Well, raising children is a good example, because it should take two parents, hopefully, to raise children. But when only one parent is present, it can be frustrating trying to manage children, especially have two or three of them, and they're not behaving as you would expect them to behave or want them to behave. It's easy to get frustrated, lose your temper, and that's where the compassion comes in. What is that child feeling right now? I've learned a lot of this from you, because this is entirely your wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. Is when the child is having a meltdown, you have to be the calm person in the storm. You have to be that rock, the one that's self-regulating when the child is dysregulated, and you can't fly off the handle with them. Which, sad to say, I've done that before. I've lost my cool, lost my temper, frustrated. Went down that whole slippery slope of not being the calm in the storm, and I've tried to learn from that. We don't have little kids around; we have grandchildren, but I try to maintain that compassion about when they're having a not so great day. Where are they coming from? Because you described earlier, not in a podcast, but in a conversation earlier in the week, about the prefrontal cortex is not quite there yet. So when babies or toddlers or young children are having a meltdown, their prefrontal cortex is not developed enough to allow them to regulate.
No,
go ahead.
Babies in general, I don't mean to interrupt, but babies in general live in their brainstem and their limbic system. Those two areas of their brain where they're either reacting to the moment, to a person, place, or thing, or something that's happening, or they're building relationship and attached and will show love and consideration for another human being based on building that relationship. They don't go into prefrontal cortex. Most children don't go into their prefrontal cortex or even can tap into that until, they're 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And it doesn't fully develop until they're in their 20s. That's why teenagers make such horrible decisions, because they don't have any logical reasoning. They don't have the ability to have a logical reasoning. Most teenagers, not all of them. Usually when I see a well put together teenager, I think, oh, they're an old soul. They must have been here before, because they're being so logical and they've got it together and they're just so smart, And I've seen teenagers like that. Mm-hmm. But it's not common. It's really not common. So children in general, and going back to being ethically responsible and responsive to the humans in general, being kind and considerate, even if you don't like somebody, doesn't mean you have to be. I heard someone say, well, I'm just going to be me. I'm not fake. You don't have to be fake. You have to be in control of you, which means you're kind and considerate and a good person.
Right. Being genuine and being mean are different things.
Right.
Being genuine doesn't have to be being mean, even though that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to change your thoughts. And aside from child rearing and that sort of thing, women being chivalrous. If someone works in a retail environment, mm-hmm. Let's say they're single, they have a cat or they have a dog, they don't have a significant other or children or anything like that. They're a single person, male or female. But they work in a retail environment, whether it's fast food or we have a daughter that works at Tractor Supply. She's an assistant manager there. Right. She has to deal with the public. And sometimes the public is nasty, downright
because they have no etiquette.
Right.
They have no filter.
Right. But they have to be the calm in the storm.
Right.
When the other person is going off, they have to be the calm in the storm. Mm-hmm. Our son Ben works in retail. He works at a Buc-ee's, which is a travel
retail. Yeah,
it's from retail. It's a travel truck stop.
If you're in Texas, you know where Buc-ee's is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a phenomenon down there, absolutely. But he has to work in retail until he can find something better, and he has to be the calm in the storm when he comes up against but stupid people that are just ignorant and mean and the dregs of society, because you get all kinds of people come through a truck stop. Mm-hmm. And so they have to be chivalrous. They probably don't know that they're being chivalrous. They probably are forced to be kind because otherwise you're going to lose your job. But it's good practice to maintain your cool and be the calm in the middle of the storm. Mm-hmm. And there are other professions, whether you work in an office and somebody doesn't clean the coffee pot, or the break room is a mess, or they're drop by your desk and want to shoot the shit for an hour while you're trying to get stuff done. Again, that's where boundaries come in. Boundaries can be chivalrous. Some people think boundaries are mean. Boundaries are not. Boundaries are you can do not cross this line, because I've got to maintain myself. I've got to maintain my own sphere of influence. If you're coming in here bugging me constantly, that's a boundary issue. Some people, they don't hang out with the people that they work with. Some people do. Now, if you're subordinate, hanging out with your boss, vice versa, that to me was be a boundary issue. Now, I've gone to places where when I was working for the Forest Service, my boss happened to be there, but I did not make it a point to be me and her off by ourselves, socializing, fraternizing. We were friends, we were cohorts, and we were compatriots and co-workers and everything else, but we did not, she didn't come over for a barbecue at our house just to come over. Mm-hmm. There was kind of a boundary issue there. Mm-hmm. And it was mutual. She agreed with that. It was unspoken too. It wasn't like we had to have a set of written rules, but she understood that. She was a good leader. Still is. Other ways that people can be chivalrous, being kind even when there are no repercussions. Social media is another good example that I raised before. You don't necessarily have to, if you disagree with somebody, you can say, well, I disagree respectfully. But you don't have to call them an asshole or an idiot or anything like that. You don't have to say mean things. You can state your case. The reason I disagree with you is ABC.
Well, and I know lately it feels like I'm trying to put that out there in the world, that regardless of what you believe in, what you don't believe in, I feel like there is a certain respect we hold from those that are running the country. And regardless if it was someone I agreed with or didn't agree with, I pray for them. I pray for their leadership. I pray for them to make good decisions. And I just feel like there's a loss of respect for those in authority. I grew up where children were seen and not heard for the most part. And, I didn't feel valued that much. I wish I would have been more involved around adult conversations, so I could have learned a little bit more about how to talk about politics or talk about the dynamics of family and dynamics of relationships. I never got that opportunity. So I widened that opportunity with my own children, making sure they were part of adult conversations. And I didn't really hold any secrets with my kids. They could come to me when things happened. They knew and they felt safe enough to come to me when something happened to them, even though they knew that I might have a thought or so about it. I was a lecturing parent. Wasn't always the best parenting way, but that's just how I was, because we have to have the conversation. And I find it really interesting. I just had an aha moment that, my whole life I was always told to be quiet, that I just talked too much and I was too loud the whole time I was growing up. And the minute I had an audience, my kids, I made them listen to me. And now I'm a teacher and I make people listen to me. And I feel like I have a lot of compassion to share and things to share in this work. So I make people sit and listen to me. And here we are in a podcast where I'm almost demanding the world to listen, because my whole life I was told to shut up. And you know what? This is the thing. When you are in a good relationship and you're with someone that is a good person and that is respecting you and kind to you and believes in you, and the love and warmth that you have shown to me, it's much deeper than anything I've ever experienced, quite honestly. And I feel very safe with you. I feel like you set that tone between us. I know you'd never do anything to physically harm me, and I know you think about things before you say them, so you're protecting my emotional state as well. But you also have boundaries, and you have shown me those boundaries. When I've pushed the envelope onto you, when I'm not at my best. We've seen each other at our worst, and we've seen each other at our best, but we always move together at something better. Like we're always striving for something a little bit better each and every year we're together. And I think one of the reasons why I wanted you to talk about chivalry today is because it is a lost piece in our society. I see a lot of people walk around with a "I deserve it" attitude, that attitude of I deserve to be respected. No, you have to earn it. You have to earn respect.
The entitlement culture.
Yeah. And so, dear listener, please do some research on this, on how to teach our kids about this etiquette and chivalry and how to be kind to others, and that demanding something from others is not how you live a peaceful, calm, beautiful life. You live a calm life, a peaceful life on being what you want to see in the world.
Leading by example.
Right.
And that also leads me into what I call happiness. Happiness is something that is constant. It is deep down. It's not momentary elation. Sure, you can go get an ice cream cone. Ice cream cone is going to make me happy. But that's just an example.
I know.
That's an example.
I know.
Okay. But an ice cream cone or buying this new thing is going to make me happy, but that's momentary elation. When the ice cream cone is gone, are you still happy?
For a minute.
If I snort this line of cocaine, it's going to make me happy for about an hour. Okay, then you're right back to where you started. Are you still happy?
It's almost like that's what drives addiction, is people striving for happy, striving for something that is a dopamine hit.
That momentary elation.
Right.
That if you get a big dopamine hit, we get that from going to the gym. I don't get it while I'm exercising. Well, sometimes I do. If it's a really strong exercise, I go, yeah, I can feel that. I do that because it feels good.
Yeah.
To make the exertion and to force, to push the envelope, so to speak. But when I leave the gym, I think that's when the dopamine hits. The big slug of endorphins hit, from a limbic system rushes through me. And you've heard the term runner's high. It doesn't happen while you're running.
No.
Running can be a miserable experience, but you do it because you're chasing that high at the very end. When you're done running, you're all sweaty and you're still breathing hard, and you're going to towel yourself off and get in your car and go home, or you're walking. If you run around where you live, you're walking up into your driveway, into your house. You're still sweating. You're breathing hard. You got to do some stretches. That's when the endorphins hit, and that's the high that I chase. And that's one example.
And the change to your body after that exertion, regardless of what it is, doesn't happen while you're doing it. It happens the 18 hours after you've done it. It is actually a time lapse. So you could go to the gym and do that big weight or whatever it is you're doing to get that dopamine hit, and then you leave the gym and you got that dopamine hit. But that's not where the changes happen. The changes happen in recovery from exercise.
And again, that's another level of happiness. Sure, that dopamine hit is a momentary elation, and that's a good thing. But as you described it, it's long lasting. It's lingering. It's got like a good taste in your mouth after you've eaten something really yummy that lasts for a while. You can go, oh man, I still taste that. It's good. And in the positive sense, not, burp and taste it. I don't mean that.
Right.
But again, getting back to true happiness, being chivalrous, being kind, being gentle, helping other people, being kind to you. I'm not overly demonstrative in public. I do hold hands with you. We don't, swap spit or tongue kiss in public or anything.
We don't
like
even
that.
do that in private.
Well, but I do, brush my back of my hand against your behind, just very subtly. I think it should be very, very subtle and understated, and not flowering over the top and pokey to other people. But again, that's where I draw some happiness from that. The core, deep down happiness. It's a skill, not a destination. If I win $1 million, I'd be happy. Well, momentarily. Then you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do with this $1 million? Am I going to spend it right away, or am I going to give it to my kids? Am I going to invest it? That part, the momentary elation would be over for a while. Sure, would $1 million change things? Yeah, hopefully for the better if you manage it wisely. But the deep down happiness is there whether you win the $1 million or whether you don't. I'm not a sports fan, but if you have your favorite team, whatever team it is, win whatever they're supposed to win, then you're momentarily happy. And if they lose, you're totally bummed. It ruins your whole day. That's completely external. The happy that I'm talking about is internal. It's like the fire that burns within you that's glowing and warm, and something that you feed constantly because you want to.
Well, and people are drawn to you when you have that internal happiness. When people see you doing a chivalry move, people are drawn to you because, oh, that's a really kind person. People want to be around kind, happy people. It's just natural in our human world. Most people don't want to be around cranky ass people.
Yeah, you're right. You want to avoid them at all costs.
You want to avoid them. So when you think about, and something I just want to hone in on a little bit of what you said, that chivalry is a skill. There is no destination as well. It is a skill. It is a work of implementing a sense of etiquette and honor of others.
And ethics.
Ethics. So learning how to use etiquette, it could be computer etiquette, it could be serving the public etiquette, it can be etiquette teaching in the classroom, etiquette of working with your colleagues, and how you are and how you show up in the world is a skill. There is no destination. Oh, I made it. I got it done. I'm done with it. No, you're never done with it. It's a skill that you practice always. And practicing good etiquette in those things gives me joy because it feels good to help others feel good. It feels good when I've said or done something that made someone's day, or if I've recognized someone or remembered something they told me before and I bring it back around and ask them about it. To me, that's good human etiquette. It's connection. It's relationship focused.
I remember a long time ago, I was in the Air Force. What year was it? I have no idea. I really don't know. It doesn't matter. Probably mid-'80s. I was driving down the road and there was an older couple off the side of the road, clearly had a flat tire, and he was older and probably knew how to change the tire, but they were both standing there staring at it like it was going to magically fix itself. And I felt the whisper in my ear to stop and help him. I don't know what it was, but I didn't, instead of driving on, which is easy to do, say, oh, well, sucks to be them. That's easy to do. I pulled over and said, I see you have a flat there, obviously. What can I do to help? And they says, well, we could, crawling down on the ground is hard to do. We have to get the jack under the car to lift it up, and I have the wrench and I have the spare tire, but the spare tire is heavy, and I understood their plight because they were little old, frail people. Mm-hmm. And they were in quite the quandary. They were shooing over. This is before cell phones. It wasn't like
right.
It wasn't like you could.
It's in the 80s.
You're right. It was before cell phones. Bag phones, car phones were a luxury and pretty rare. And it was usually pimps that had car phones.
Yeah.
And they clearly were not pimps.
Right.
So I stopped. I said, well, what can I do to help? And so I changed the tire for him. For me, it was no big deal. I was in good shape. I was young. I was able to, pull the spare out, put the flat tire back in. They were going to go to a tire shop to get it fixed, and the tire shop could have helped him. But it wasn't like, and this was at a stretch of road. There wasn't a whole lot around. They did not appear to be the in good enough shape where they could walk to the nearest payphone. Mm. And there's not a whole lot of cars driving by. Mm-hmm. So I felt the need that it was necessary. And as it turns out, they were on the way to a funeral for a friend of theirs that had passed away. Mm. And they were dressed up nicely, not suit and tie nice, but up beyond casual.
Right.
Like they were driving somewhere, trying to get there, going to a funeral. And you could see that the situation was beyond their control, and they weren't really sure what to do.
Right.
So I stepped in and helped, and I felt good about that for a couple of weeks afterwards. They offered to pay me money. I didn't want money for it. That's not why I did it. I didn't stop because I wanted $20 or whatever. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Would I do the same thing again today? Absolutely. About a year and a half ago, I was left the college. I think you and I had lunch or something. I was on my motorcycle, left the college, and the shifter on my motorcycle had come off to the point where it wouldn't shift all the way. I didn't have any tools with me, but this guy stopped on his motorcycle, and he saw me trying to beat it with a rock or my water bottle or something, trying to get the shifter back on. Because I couldn't upshift and downshift. And my motorcycle is not an automatic transmission. You have to use clutch and shift and all that other stuff. But this guy stopped, and he was on a what they call it, adventure sport motorcycles, dual sport motorcycle. Mm-hmm. And he says, I just live up the road. So he was kind enough not only to stop and see if he could help, he went all the way to his house, grabbed some tools, came back, and helped me put the shifter back on. He didn't have to. He could have kept going. Mm-hmm. But then we got into the story about him and his wife were on their dual sport motorcycles. They were down in South America, Argentina, I think it was. they were riding around on their motorcycles, doing a motorcycle trip in Argentina when the pandemic hit. And they couldn't ride back through all these countries because all the restrictions. You have to have a jab, you have to have a mask, you have blah, 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 language barriers. So they had to store their motorcycles, fly back, and it was just to the point where they could get back and go get their motorcycles. And they had, like a month prior to that, he had managed to retrieve both of their motorcycles. And I was fortunate enough, I was able to learn from that experience that this guy was able to, relay his story. He was practicing chivalry. He was doing a kindness for somebody who he did not know.
Mm-hmm. And expected nothing in return.
And I think that is the core of chivalry, of being kind to other people without expecting anything in return.
That's beautiful.
It's kind of a long-winded story, but I think it was relevant.
Absolutely, 100%. Something beautiful about doing this podcast is these are things we'll be able to listen to forever.
Yeah, and 3 or 4 people that are listening now can listen to them.
Chivalry is not dead.
No, it is not.
I have seen people here and there.
It is limping along, but hopefully could be revived.
And so when you see it, point it out and thank someone for holding that door. Thank someone for showing kindness in their heart and good etiquette on service. When I have a good waitress or someone that's really good behind the register or connected, we went to a Hawaiian restaurant here in Redding over by Safeway off Churn Creek, and the girl behind the register was just sweet as pie. One of the kindest, it just made me so happy. It's like, I want everybody to be happy.
Asking us how our Easter was. And
Yeah, how are you doing tonight? What'd you guys do for Easter? That type of thing. It was just kind. And there's people out there that get so frustrated having to wait for people to have a little conversation. And it's like, back up and just take a moment. Quit rushing around so fast that you forget that we're lucky to be walking on this side of the earth today. We're lucky each day we open our eyes and we can see the sun. Each day we have to take a moment, and don't go to the grocery store and be in a rush all the time. Slow it down. Enjoy the journey. I just think we forget about that.
I think I also just know, just a second ago I had my own aha moment, and that being kind and being chivalrous, I think that is an all-encompassing word, is you're actually returning a favor. Because if you think of it as I'm doing this hoping to get something in return, you've got it backwards. Being chivalrous and being kind and being respectful and helping other people is actually returning the favor. Mm-hmm. Is returning the favor for being alive, being able to breathe the air.
That I get to be here today doing this thing.
Yeah, we're on this side of the grass.
Right.
I was dead for billions of years before I was alive, and I'll be dead for billions of years afterwards.
Right.
We get this little bitty brief firefly, or a
mustard seed moment.
Yeah, the mayfly only lives for 24 hours.
Yeah.
If you think of it that way, you only get these little bitty mayfly moments, and you get to choose what you do with them. And you've relayed this story in the past. What is your dash? You have the dates on your tombstone. If you decide to be buried in the ground and have a tombstone, you'll have the day you were born. There's this dash, and the day you died, and that dash in the middle is what's important. What did you do with that dash?
It's the most important. And teaching that. When I teach the human development class, towards the end of class, because we do lifespan development, and so we go through from prenatal till death, and towards the end of the semester, it can be really cumbersome talking about death. Mm-hmm.
It's a heavy subject, no doubt.
It is a heavy subject, but what do you want to leave behind you in the world? Now, there are people in this world like Thelma and Louise, or those was a couple other people in the world that want to go out shooting and killing. There are people like that. They want to flat out hurt somebody before they die, or themselves before they die. Me, I want to basically, at the end of my life, I want to look back and I want to know that I've made some sort of an imprint or made this world a little bit better for those that are coming behind me, in my family, in the world. That's why I do all the work I do on trauma. Because instead of using it as an excuse, we use it as an opportunity to better ourselves and to change the trajectory of generational trauma. And I started doing that back in the 90s. I started breaking those chains of trauma, and I made a decision. It was then I made that decision. And I don't think we've gone down that road, and maybe next week we'll do that for our Sunday morning coffee.
Maybe that's your chivalry.
It is. I have a lot of compassion for those that have gone through hard stuff. And even though mine isn't as hard as many people out there have gone through, it's my story. And I can use my story to help me become a better person. Or I can use it to hate the world. And I choose to become a better person. And that's what it's done for me. 100%.
Well, do you think that's a podcast?
I think so. We're at 1 hour.
Yeah, I think we pretty much beat the subject to death. Explored it quite thoroughly.
Yeah. Hey, honey, thanks for just really sharing your story about chivalry. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you and how much I love you for always creating that safe place for me and safe place for our family, and just being so kind and kind-hearted to just everybody that you touch. And I appreciate that a lot, and I love you for that. It's what draws me to you. So, thank you.
That's what keeps me going.
I love you, honey.
Love you, sweetie.
Have a great week.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, thanks, listeners. We're not doctors. We're not lawyers. We're just human beings to maybe propel these ideas forward just a little bit. Yeah. So share. If you heard something neat, heard something interesting, maybe you can put it into practice, or give it to somebody else so they can put it into practice, or at least think about it.
Go do something nice for somebody this week.
Yeah, go forth and do good things.
Go forth and do good things.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye.
Bye.